The series starts with a young man dragging a heavy suitcase above a cliff and then throwing it down in the sea. We see that the suitcase carries the body of another young man who's a bit on the chubbier side and is now getting drowned in the deep waters. The scene then shifts to the drowning boy's life story. Ashton is a quiet and chubby teenager who has faced bullying and body shaming since his childhood. A bunch of his classmates would always bully him into doing silly things and taking free food from his grandma before throwing it in the trash bin to make him feel humiliated. He keeps bearing with everything quietly until one day he's forced to run around wearing only a pair of shorts and carrying a water cup on his head. The bullies not only record everything on camera, but also refuse to return his clothes until the cup is filled with rainwater. When his grandma comes to know about the hardships her poor grandson has been going through, she helps him switch schools and move to another city. However, bad luck seems to have followed him to the new place as well. On his first day at school, Ashton takes selfies with the new school in the background to send to his grandmother. However, his posture while clicking those pictures gives an impression to the girls passing in front of him that he captured their photos. Later, he shares the bus with the same group of students, and once again he's mistaken as a bad guy when the bus comes to a sudden halt and his phone falls down right under the girl Audrey's skirt. This scares Audrey and her friend Hazel, who thinks that he's a pervert. The girls have a classmate named Lucas who has a huge crush on Audrey, and he gets angry at Ashton. Together with his group, he starts beating the boy and refuses to listen to any of his explanations. Ashton somehow escapes the bus and runs to hide in a gaming studio. Lucas follows him inside the studio but is blocked by a senior who doesn't let him in. Eventually, the bully is made to leave and Ashton finally comes out of his hiding place, but he sees the people around him watching a video and making fun of the boy in it. On a closer inspection, he realizes that it's him being bullied wearing only a small piece of cloth. The situation gets worse when one of them recognizes him, and they start fat shaming him. Poor Ashton feels really humiliated and leaves the place broken-heartedly. On the other hand, Hazel and Audrey go through his phone to realize that he never clicked their pictures, and they had misunderstood him. The girls feel bad about the situation because Hazel is a righteous person who hates bullies herself. Upon returning to his rented place, Ashton spends an entire evening drowned in misery. He wonders why he has to live such a pitiful life when he never wished bad for anyone. Out of disappointment, he jumps from the rooftop and gives up on his life. His body falls down on the sidewalk and shocks a young boy named Archie who was walking by the same road. However, before he could go to check on the fallen boy, a group of senior students approached Ashton and tried to wake him up. This is the same group of seniors who had an argument with Lucas because they're against bullying. Surprisingly, Ashton does wake up after a few moments with not a single scratch on his body. The leader of the group is named William, and he assures the chubby guy of their help regarding the bullying matter. However, Ashton is too confused about the strange phenomenon he just experienced and runs home to sleep things off. No one noticed that the moment he woke up, the good-looking young man across the road fell unconscious and dropped to the floor. Next day, we see Archie wake up on the road confused about being there when he should be in the bed. He then rushes home and enters Ashton's room to see him sleeping in the bed. The next moment, a scream is heard in the neighborhood as it's revealed that Ashton's soul is inside Archie's body. The man is shocked to see his sleeping body in the bed and finds himself in another body upon looking in the mirror. As if thinking that it's a dream, he slaps himself hard and dramatically finds himself back in his original body. It's revealed that the boy Archie's soul is nowhere to be found, and Ashton can switch between both bodies by slapping himself. While he'd be using one body, the other would keep sleeping until he'd choose to use that body. Ashton hears a knock at the door and opens it to see Hazel, who lives in the same building and came to check on him upon hearing him scream. When she sees that it's the boy that they had misunderstood, Hazel hurries to apologize to him and returns his phone. This makes him happy, because this is the first time that some girl treated him nicely. After some consideration, the boy decides to take the chance that fate offered him and goes to school in Archie's body. He makes the excuse of being fat earlier and losing weight to look the way he does now when she seems suspicious about him looking different than his admission documents. He instantly becomes popular in the entire school due to his good looks. Girls would flock around him to get his attention, get extra books to be issued just to spend a few more moments with him on his library duty day, and request to sketch his body just to get a glimpse of his toned muscles. The amount of attention makes him really happy, because he's always attracted negative attention before this. He also realizes that he can use the skills accumulated by Archie's body, such as playing basketball perfectly. The girls keep getting crazy about him, except Hazel, who finds it strange that he has the same name as the boy who's now her neighbor. Overwhelmed by all the popularity, Ashton goes to the bathroom to calm himself down. On his way out, he's approached by Lucas, who finds pleasure in bullying others, but Ashton doesn't play docile and pretends to act bravely in front of him. This puts Lucas to disbelief because he has never been treated like this. His bravery greatly impresses one of Lucas's followers who finds him heroic. Felix has been the bully's sidekick to avoid getting bullied by him and idealizes his new classmate's bravery. He runs to the canteen and hurriedly buys some snacks for the boy before rushing back to the class. His excitement gives Hazel an impression that he's being bullied by Lucas to bring him snacks once again. She angrily follows him to give the bully a piece of his mind, but gets taken aback to see him offer the snacks to the new transfer student. As a person who hates bullying, Hazel warns Ashton to abstain from such activities and gives him his first warning. At the third strike, she'd be forced to take an action against him. Ashton is left sitting there at a loss of words and not understanding what just happened. Once back to his room, he gets a call from Hazel to check on his original self, as she had taken her contact number from his phone. He lies about not having taken admission yet and about being sick since she finds his voice strange. She immediately offers to bring him medicine, and he receives it from her in his original body. Once again, he's bombarded with group chats where class girls added him. He then receives a call inviting him to discuss a business opportunity, but upon going there, he discovers that the call was for Archie's body. He makes an excuse that Ashton was busy, so he sent him over. The girl who called him was a self-obsessed class fellow named Anna, who leaves the place while cursing him for ruining her live stream. Next day, Ashton decides to go check on a convenience store for a job since they need a night shift worker. The owner happily agrees to hire him since his good looks would help attract more girls to his store, but he explains that the job is for his friend. After some time, he visits the store again in his original body, but gets denied to work there due to his ugly looks. While this all goes on, Anna watches everything from the side as this is her father's store. The girl immediately cooks up a scheme and meets him at school where he uses Archie's body and offers to help his friend with a job. In return, the boy would have to befriend her and occasionally appear on her live stream. Ashton agrees to this because a job is important after all. At night, he's caught by Hazel outside his room who questions his presence there. Ashton makes an excuse that he's living here with his childhood friend Ashton. Although quiet on the outside, Hazel gets puzzled at the strange dynamics of the boys having the same name and being childhood friends. Ashton then switches bodies and rushes to work at the convenience store. He's noticed by Felix, who came to pick up some stuff. The sidekick immediately runs to Lucas to tell him about the perverted guy's location, who had captured Audrey's pictures. Ashton is then attacked by the bullies group, who keep beating him cruelly until William and his group arrive there. The opposite groups are at the brink of a fight, but Ashton's painful cries attract William's attention while Lucas leaves with his group. He's then helped up by William and his friends. Once again disappointed by his life, Ashton calls his grandmother, but refuses to say anything. However, the old lady figures out that her grandchild is still having a hard time and decides to visit him the next day. She brings lots of homemade food with her and asks Ashton's classmate Eugene to give it to him. Eugene is actually the school principal's son, but no one is aware of his identity, and he goes to hand over the things to his new classmate. Meanwhile, Lucas boasts about beating the perverted guy to Audrey, but in return, both of the girls get mad at him, telling him to apologize, saying it was all a misunderstanding and he had no right to take action on others' behalf. When Eugene gives Ashton his grandma's food, the boy offers to share it with his classmates. Not only that, he even makes Eugene have some of the food, much to everyone's surprise, because the boy has never eaten anything at school. While he's still busy talking about his grandma, Ashton suddenly realizes that the old lady must have gone to his rented room and rushes to intercept her from entering the room. Claiming to be Ashton's friend, he requests her to let him fix the room first, and then goes in to switch bodies before coming out to meet her again. He then brings the old lady up to his room and explains an unconscious Archie's condition as an illness. Next day, Grandma wakes up to prepare breakfast and finds her grandson missing who's working at the store. However, Archie wakes up after some time and she offers him breakfast. It's revealed that Ashton's bodies can be automatically switched if the sleeping body has recovered its energy while the other body is fatigued. The same happens here, and Ashton finds himself in Archie's body, while his original body is lying unconscious at the convenience store's counter. He's caught sleeping by the store owner, who angrily wakes him up, making Archie's body sleep once again. This makes Grandma feel sympathy for the poor child who seems to have some chronic illness. When her grandson comes back from what she imagines to be a morning walk, Grandma encourages him to keep the healthy routine up and forcefully shoves some money in his hands despite his denial. At the same moment, they're greeted by Hazel, and Grandma expresses her happiness that the girl studies in the same school as her grandson. Although puzzled, Hazel plays along with his lies. She later confronts him about the lie he's telling to his grandmother about school. and Ashton requests her to allow him some time before he finally tells her the truth. He then asks her about why she treats him nicely, and wonders if it's because she feels pity for him. Hazel stays quiet, but her childhood flashback reveals that she too had to face bullying as a child due to her weight. The past trauma still catches up to her sometimes. That's why she hates bullies and tries to save others from getting bullied as well. Ashton stays in the school until he's sure that Grandma has left for her home. He then goes home to switch bodies and come back as the handsome Ashton everyone knows him as. He sees Felix and drags him to the canteen to buy him a cake as a friendly gesture, which leaves the boy stunned, because he's never been treated as more than a lackey. However, Hazel happens to see him pay using the original boy's wallet and gets confused. Soon after, Ashton goes to the bathroom where William arrives with his group and snatches his wallet before asking him to follow him. They bring him to a boxing ring and the senior invites him for a match. This leaves Ashton confused because he thought that William is a nice person, but he's unaware that there are rumors about him bullying other kids as well, and therefore William wishes to teach him a lesson. Initially, he's unable to defend against William's attacks, but soon his anger from years of being bullied simmers up, and Ashton counterattacks the senior with a single punch, knocking him out. After school, Ashton finds Hazel standing outside his room demanding that he opens the door because she wishes to talk to the original Ashton. Helpless against her force, Ashton opens the door for her before rushing to hide in a corner to hide because soon the girl would wake up his original body. Hazel is soon joined by William, who came looking for the handsome Ashton to apologize to him because he mistook him for a bully. The pair manages to wake the original body, who tells them that he gave his wallet to the other boy himself. After the misunderstanding is cleared, the girl tries to look for her classmate so she can apologize to him, but the boy is nowhere to be seen. Ashton comes out in his original body once the place is clear and drags Archie's body back to the room from his hiding place. Next day, Lucas bullies Felix to give him $5,000. Out of options, he asks Ashton for some loan, but he too is a poor guy doing a part-time job to manage his expenses. So Felix tries to sell his branded shoes to a local dealer for some cash. Unfortunately, the dealer also turns out to be a bully and snatches his shoes instead of buying them. Not only that, he bullies the boy into recording his video, similar to Ashton's, and threatens to make it viral if he dares to report him. Beaten and disappointed, Felix steals money from the store where Ashton works using his original body and runs away. Ashton, who had noticed his battered state and wanted to console him, immediately runs after him but fails to retrieve the money. The store owner wishes to report the thief to police, but being the soft-hearted guy Ashton is, he gives up his salary to save his friend from getting his future prospects ruined. Next day, he meets Felix and tells him that his theft caused his friend to lose his job. Feeling guilty, Felix tells him about the situation that he had to face and promises to return the money as soon as possible. However, Ashton insists that they recover his video from the buyer whom he had contacted online because someday that person could really release it on social media. The two then head to a cyber cafe and Ashton requests to buy the shoes that the scammer is now selling. On the other hand, Hazel discovers Felix's misdeed at the store and calls him to give him a scolding, but he informs her about the good-looking Ashton's risky adventure. Ashton goes to meet the gangster guy and gets in a brawl with him to delete Felix's recording. Just when he manages to get a hold of his phone, the gangster guy's friend arrives there and strikes him in the back of the head, knocking him unconscious. The offenders continue to drag his body to their hideout while Ashton wakes up in his original body and rushes to trace Archie's body. Hazel too gets William's help, and they reach the place where Ashton went to meet the online buyer. William finds Ashton's blood there and tries to call the police, but Felix intervenes out of fear that they may release his video on the internet for revenge. This angers Hazel, who scolds him for being selfish when Ashton took such a big risk for him. On the other hand, Ashton's original body faints on the roadside, prompting Archie's body to wake up and fight his way out of the apartment and to the building's stairs. However, his original body is found by Felix, who wakes him up to tell him about his supposed friend's dire condition. Although a bit annoyed at being woken up at such a crucial time, he hurries to tell William about the building where his body is kept. He then continues to slam his head into a pole to knock himself unconscious and switch back to his other body, which is being carried back by the kidnappers. Once again, he manages to get out of their hold and meets Hazel and William's group, who came to his rescue. They manage to fight off the two criminals, and Ashton finds a ton of blackmailing material in their phone that they have recorded of other people as well. He deletes all of the media, but soon their group is surrounded by a bigger group of gangsters that one of the kidnappers had called for. However, they're rescued by police, whom Felix had called to request help. Back at the school, someone reports Lucas of bullying and extorting money from the students. He receives a harsh warning from the teacher, who tells him to apologize to everyone, but instead of listening obediently, He goes to beat Felix at the school cafeteria, who promptly runs away. The situation scares Hazel, and she immediately calls William and Ashton for help. At night, Ashton goes back to Anna's father to request him to give him another chance. The store owner agrees after much reluctance, but Ashton gets interrupted during his duty when he finds Lucas beating Felix outside the door. He rushes to save the boy from the bully, but Lucas puts a condition saying they both beat each other and the winner gets to get away from his wrath. Hearing this, Felix immediately attacks his well-wisher, making Lucas mock Ashton for his sympathy being wasted on a wrong person. He then proceeds to once again hit Felix, who claims to not have reported him, suggesting it to be Hazel, since she likes to play knight in the shining armor for bullied students. The bully finds it believable and aggressively confronts the girl the next day. However, she claps back without getting scared and says she didn't report him, but he's not a good person, so her friend Audrey would never like her. This infuriates him, and he tries to attack her, but Ashton arrives there, who kicks him first before running away with Hazel. They hide in a cupboard where Lucas fails to locate them and share an awkwardly sweet moment because they both like each other. However, someone recorded their video while escaping the bully and posted it on the school forum. The video garners a lot of attention, earning Ashton even more fan base. However, Anna and Lucas find it irritating. Anna because she likes the boy and vows to teach Hazel a lesson. Lucas, on the other hand, feels humiliated and vows to teach Ashton a lesson. He tasks a few boys to find out his background. Anna gangs up with other girls to create troubles for Hazel, and even gets her uniform orders canceled that her sister was preparing. Ashton, too, gets cornered and beaten by Lucas's gang, but William arrives there in time and asks the bully to leave respectfully since they were once friends. After Lucas leaves, William gives the young boy some fighting tips and tells him to let go of the fear that's holding him back from fighting properly. Hazel's orders keep getting returned, and she goes to confront Anna, who is spreading rumors about her character regarding Ashton. Anna tells her to kneel and apologize, and when the girl does as ordered, she dumps an entire dustbin on her head. Unbeknownst to her, Ashton had followed her in Archie's body and recorded everything in his phone. He then blackmails the bully girl with putting the video on the internet and destroying her fan base if she dared to bully Hazel again. Anna seeks Lucas's help, who once again approaches Ashton and demands his phone. Ashton asks him to trust him that neither he nor Hazel reported him, but the bully refuses to believe it and hits him again. They're soon approached by Hazel and Audrey, who shouts at Lucas saying it's her who reported him. The confession leaves him at a loss of words, but the girl keeps going on saying he's forgotten humanity, and she started to hate him. Not only that, she tells him to go talk to her only when he has mended his ways. All this while, Lucas is too shocked to say anything because somewhere in his mind, he was doing this all to look cool in her eyes. Back at his home, Ashton starts to find switching bodies with a slap irritating because it hurts. He figures out a non-violent way to switch bodies, that is by using an inhaling pump. He also finds a tattoo at the back of Archie's body, and touching it brings him a few visions that suggest that some high-profile people are trying to locate him. Next day, he smartly uses his dual bodies to cheat in the exam. Every time he finds a question difficult, he'd go to sleep and wake up in his original body to hurriedly revise the answers. He'd then use the inhaler to make his original body sleep and wake up in the exam hall to copy the answers. While this all goes on smoothly, Eugene finds his behavior strange while sitting at a back seat. When the results are announced, Eugene scores a second position while Ashton comes first. Finding it strange, he goes to meet Ashton at night, but unexpectedly catches his original body suddenly going asleep and his other body waking up. He finds his unconscious state quite suspicious, but Ashton awkwardly covers it up, saying his friend has some health problems. Unconvinced, Eugene goes to meet Ashton's original body at the convenience store, and once again finds both Ashton's eating habits strangely similar. His suspicions get stronger, and he visits Ashton's grandma in her city, claiming to be her grandson's friend. Grandmother brings the child home to offer him a meal, and shows him Ashton's childhood pictures, finally revealing the identity of the real Ashton. As if that's not enough, Eugene goes back to Ashton to confront him about the matter, and once again witnesses the boy switching bodies. This time, Ashton is forced to tell him the entire situation. Although finding it unbelievable initially, Eugene finally trusts him and promises to keep it a secret despite discovering his cheating in the exam. Hazel's sister runs a boutique and uses Ashton as a model, which earns them quite a good response due to Archie's good looks. On the other hand, a conversation between the people looking for him reveals that Archie is an Asian American who came here for an urgent task, and they need to locate him as soon as possible. That night, while working at the store, Ashton gets some strange visions about a doctor trying to wake him up and calling him Archie. The haze soon gets cleared away, and he treats it casually while getting busy with his grandmother on a call. On the other hand, the real Archie finally wakes up and finds himself in a strange room that belongs to Ashton. He gets out of there and walks past Hazel, ignoring her calls. His body language suggests a completely different and dangerous aura compared to Ashton's friendly and approachable personality. Outside on the road, he bumps into a bunch of gangsters who try to scare him away but instead get beaten by the angry young man. Archie then starts feeling dizzy and goes back to Ashton's room before drifting off to sleep once again. The ruffians rush back to complain to their boss about the terrible beating that they received, and the man invites the boy over to his place the next day. As soon as Ashton reaches there, he's instantly attacked by a lot of gangsters, and we spot Lucas standing there in a corner, but not participating in the beating. During the fight, someone accidentally touches the tattoo at Archie's neck, and the action causes original Archie's soul to enter his body, who then thrashes everyone mercilessly until someone hits him in the head and knocks him out. At that time, William comes there to save the boy and becomes the target of the gang leader's wrath. However, he too is saved by Lucas, who comes in front of him and takes the blow on himself. The goons escape with the arrival of the police while William and Lucas finally reconcile as good friends, and they even announce their truce to the entire school, happily. Next day, the students leave for a summer camp to get some intensive training and even enjoy it to some extent. At night, they're tasked to go on a treasure hunt in the form of pairs. Hazel and Audrey are paired together, and Hazel gets injured on the way, making her unable to walk. Seeing this, Audrey goes to get help from an instructor who tells her to go ahead, saying he'll bring the girl back. However, he takes Hazel in the opposite direction after sending Audrey ahead. He brings her to a cabin, telling her they need to wait for help there, and tries to force himself on her. Hazel gets too scared and tries to fight him off, but the man is really strong and almost gets successful in his evil plans, but Ashton arrives there bursting through the door. He had set out to look for Hazel along with Lucas and William when Audrey told them about the instructor because they had heard rumors about him being a pervert. The instructor, named Hulk, gets in a fistfight with Ashton and manages to beat him to unconsciousness thanks to his intensive training. However, Ashton's unconsciousness brings Archie's soul forward, who identifies the man to be his enemy and starts beating him into a pulp. He only stops when Hazel asks him to, but before he can ask her about the situation or why he's here, he's switched with Ashton's soul, who rushes to hug the girl with relief. On the way back to school, Lucas shoves a teddy bear in Audrey's hands, feeling embarrassed, but her smile gives away the soft corner she's starting to develop for the boy. Hazel, on the other hand, avoids Ashton at every encounter they're having, leaving him puzzled. He decides to ask for her reason using his original body, and she confesses liking Ashton, saying she feels awkward with her feelings involved. While the confession brings him happiness, Ashton gets sad upon realizing that it's Archie's body whom she considers to be him. He discusses his dilemma with Eugene, who encourages him, saying she'll accept him for who he is if she's truly in love with him. Hazel asks Ashton out on a movie date, and he delightfully agrees to it. The girl then heads to a salon with Audrey to get ready for her first date, where Anna overhears their conversation and gets jealous to learn about her date. Ashton too dresses up nicely and prepares to leave when he accidentally touches the tattoo at his neck, which brings Archie's soul back to his body. Archie leaves the room, leaving Ashton's phone behind in the room, while Hazel is left to wait in the movie theater for him. She calls Eugene to ask if Ashton is with him, and the boy goes to check on him in his room, finding him asleep. He wakes the original Ashton, and they both rush out to find Archie's body, who happens to meet Anna on the road. Anna gets excited to see him, guessing he rejected Hazel's date, and invites him to go to a bar. Archie, who seems to have an unrestrained personality, agrees to her request, saying bars are his favorite anyway. Once there, he dances his heart out and attracts a lot of attention from the girls, including Anna, whom he keeps indulging playfully. Anna even records their video while dancing together before he starts feeling a headache and steps out of the place. Next, he gets switched with Ashton, who runs to meet Hazel and makes an excuse of getting stuck in an emergency situation. Hazel doesn't take it to heart, and they continue to watch a movie to spend quality time together. On the other hand, Eugene is left to take care of Ashton's original body and his phone, where Anna texts him asking why he left so early. He goes to meet the girl and asks if Ashton was with her. Anna confirms it and shows him their dance video. Watching the boy dance in the video, Eugene discerns that he's the original owner of that body, who's slowly coming back to his body. The scene then shifts to a young idol named Henry, who seems to have gotten in trouble. His manager scolds him for being careless and tells him to attend school for the time being. The manager goes to the school to settle things for him and meets Ashton in the corridor. He finds him extremely photogenic and gives him his card, making his classmates envious because the card belongs to a well-known firm. However, Ashton doesn't seem too interested in the opportunity because he doesn't know how to act. Henry receives a warm welcome at the school and acts a bit arrogant until Felix tells him that their classmate Ashton too got invited by his manager to join the industry. He calls Ashton over and tells him to ignore the manager because he's a bit loose in the head, but Hazel advises him against it. She tells him to take the opportunity to provide a good life for his grandmother, and he finds her advice logical. Next day, Ashton meets the entertainment manager and signs a contract with him after a bit of discussion. However, he still feels nervous about his acting skills and spends some time practicing his acting with his friends. When he's called for the audition, Ashton gets too puzzled and fails to get the lines right. His nervousness leads Archie to come out, who gets hysterical upon finding himself among strangers taking them for kidnappers. Being the short-tempered person that he is, Archie grabs a man nearby and threatens to kill him if they don't reveal their identities. He's soon replaced back with Ashton, who gets confused to see that the scene earned him an applause and the jury found his acting skills to be the finest, signing him up for the project. Henry gets angry upon losing his projects to a newbie and asks someone to investigate him. The investigations reveal nothing wrong about his lifestyle, but Henry's eyes get stuck on the boy's roommate, the original Ashton. He observes him standing outside his workplace, and the tab in his hands reveals the recording of him being bullied. As if on instinct, Henry decides to visit the boy's hometown where he meets Jack, Ashton's childhood bully. After confirming that he's the one who bullied the chubby guy, Henry gives him a packet full of money and invites him to their city. Once at the city, Henry tasks him to beat the life out Ashton's roommate, who has the same name and happens to be Ashton's roommate as well. The prospect of getting to bully someone again greatly excites Jack. Next day, Ashton gets scared to find him in his class, but pretends to be nonchalant about it. Jack also goes to Ashton's store at night and takes things away without paying for them. He also tells him to ask his roommate to meet him at a secluded place. That night, Ashton decides to not run anymore and goes to see Jack. They get into a fist fight with Ashton initially dominating the fight, but slowly Jack overpowers him. He's interrupted by Ashton's friends who come to his rescue and intends to teach them a lesson too, but Henry calls him to stay focused on Ashton alone. Jack's might is unmatchable, and he even beats Lucas's previous gang members and takes over their gang. Next, he scares Henry with his new gang's power and tells him to stay out of his business and only wait for him to fulfill his promise of breaking Ashton's bones. Henry realizes that he's dropped the axe on his foot himself, but it is too late now. On the other hand, Ashton's soul gets switched with Archie's once again, and he finds himself in the school's bathroom wearing a uniform. When Eugene goes to check on him after some time, he finds the boy missing, indicating his escape using the restroom's window. Out on the road, Archie finds things more and more ridiculous and wonders how he reached that school. He fails to notice that he's being followed by the guard who's been looking for him till now. That guard has an injection in his hand and prepares to stab him with it, but Eugene reaches there with his secretary and takes the now Ashton back with him. The guard then calls someone named Dr. God and requests him for a little more time to fulfill their mission. However, the doctor reveals that they don't have much time on hand and announces that he's going to come to the country himself. Jack, who has taken over the previous gangster's den, asks his lackeys for the gang's biggest enemies, who are William and Lucas. He then beats William in a sneak attack because he's too formidable to be fought head-on, and then repeats the process on Lucas, causing both of the friends to reach the hospital. Their condition makes everyone worried, but both of them look more worried about not being able to ascend to the next level in the game that they're playing. Jack goes to the convenience store and asks Ashton to call his friend over, but Ashton finally gets fed up with his bullying. He shouts at him to leave his friends alone and becomes a target of his wrath. But Hazel arrives there and tries to get the bully to leave Ashton alone. Jack doesn't spare the girl either and goes to beat her, but gets interrupted by Ashton, who holds his legs, and Hazel runs away after biting the gangster on his hand. Jack immediately follows after her, and Ashton realizes that he can't compete with the man in his current body. So he takes the inhaler to go to Archie's body, but Archie is already awake and coming out of his building. On his way out, he bumps into Hazel, who asks him to run with her, but he keeps going forward, coming face to face with Jack, who attacks him feeling smug. However, the gangster is beaten black and blue by the young boy who keeps beating him, ignoring Hazel's pleas to let him go. When Hazel finally shouts for him to stop, Archie looks up at her and imagines a little girl calling for him. This is the first time that he reveals some emotions and runs to hug the little girl in his arms. Soon he gets switched with Ashton, who hurriedly takes her away. However, Henry's reporter has recorded the fight, vividly capturing Ashton's face, and the actor makes the video viral on the internet using his connections. This makes Ashton appear like a villain in the public's eye, and his friends get worried about him. Lucas suggests bringing the chubby Ashton's video forward to the internet, where he's being bullied by Jack, to show that he's the real bully, and that Ashton is teaching him a lesson. However, Hazel and Eugene vote against it, saying this will push the bullied boy back to depression. Their conversation is overheard by Ashton, who leaves silently. Hazel gets stopped by Jack's goons on her way back to home, and they bring her to a bar where Anna spots the girl and tries to follow her to the VIP room, but gets denied by the guards. Frustrated, she calls Ashton to tell him about the girl who's being forced to watch all of the videos that Jack ever recorded while bullying the original Ashton. Hazel gets angry and throws a drink on him, prompting him to attack her and press her neck. However, he's soon hit by Ashton, who arrived there with Eugene. The two boys team up against the gangster, managing to bring him a bit of harm before the police arrive on Eugene's secretary's request. Jack manages to escape alone, leaving his sidekicks to get arrested. The youngsters then head to the police station to record their statements, and on their way out, meet the school's principal. The lady slaps her son for being too unruly and takes him back home, leaving others stunned who didn't know that Eugene was the principal's son. Ashton blames himself for all of his friend's miseries, but Hazel consoles him. Later, he makes an important decision and goes to the entertainment agency using his original body. He brings along the videos of him being bullied by Jack and gives them to Ashton's manager to help clear his name. The plan works, and public opinion takes a drastic turn, leaving Henry astonished, who lost at the game he created himself. Jack, too, gets to hear about it from him and vows to destroy the actor Ashton's career. Ashton, on the other hand, decides to take action on what he decided and buys a butcher knife, but gets caught by Hazel. She finds his activities suspicious while he meets his grandma, like he's meeting her for the last time, and thanks Archie's sleeping body for all the good memories that it brought to him. At night, Hazel finds him sneaking out of the building and follows him to catch him a few moments before he attempts to stab Jack to death. The girl drags him back to an alley and slaps him to bring him back to his senses. The slap actually works like magic, as he understands the gravity of the situation and throws the knife away in a dustbin. However, his little stunt didn't go unnoticed by the bully, who had noticed him and his intentions. Hazel asks Ashton to go back home and goes to meet Audrey herself. When Ashton reaches home drenched in rain, he's greeted by Jack, who's already waiting for him at the rooftop. This time, the bully is furious at his audacity to attack him and goes for a kill. Ashton tries to protect himself, and they both get entangled on the rooftop in the stormy night. Suddenly, Jack's foot slipped and he fell down from the roof, right into a garbage cart. Seeing this, Ashton gets scared as he realizes that he might have murdered the man. He cries out like a broken man while blaming himself and his trashy life that never had anything good to offer to him. The scene then moves to the very first scene of the series, where Ashton is walking in Archie's body and dragging a suitcase with him that has his original body. Upon reaching the cliff, he pushes his original body into the sea to get rid of all of his problems and forever stay in Archie's body. However, right after the suitcase is pushed into the water, a thunderclap is heard, and the tattoo behind Archie's neck glows brightly before Archie finally wakes up and Ashton's soul is pushed back into his own body, which is getting drowned. Archie looks a bit disoriented and wonders how he reached the place. On the other hand, Ashton starts feeling suffocated and tries to quickly unzip the bag from inside because he only intended to finish his body, not himself. After managing to open the bag with some struggle, Ashton drags it to the seashore to take some deep breaths. However, he gets scared to see a confused Archie standing in front of him. Before he can say something, he receives a phone call from William, who happily tells him that Jack broke his leg and is currently getting treated at the same hospital as him. Turns out, Ashton overreacted to the man's fall to where he belonged. Garbage. However, his attention is soon captured by an angry Archie, who throws the phone away and questions him about how he reached there. Ashton has no option but to bring the boy home with him and tell him everything honestly, including using his body to go to school and sign an entertainment job. The confession leaves Archie in disbelief, which quickly morphs into anger, and he threatens to kill Ashton for using his body like a slave and removing his memories. But he soon realizes that Ashton is a harmless person and lets him go, intending to leave the place. However, Ashton knocks him unconscious using a heavy object and drags him back to the room. Ashton is then visited by Eugene and tells him about the gravity of the situation, including Archie's comeback. After hearing everything, Eugene tries to shake Archie awake, and he wakes up too, acting all moody until Eugene turns back and realizes that it's Ashton pretending to be Archie for fun. Ashton is delighted upon getting Archie's body back to himself, but still faces a hard time from Henry's side. During one of the classes, Henry intentionally drops his paper to the ground, and when Ashton bends to pick it up, he pressed on the boy's neck tattoo just to irritate him. The stimulation works like a magic button, waking Archie's soul, who this time analyzes his situation much more calmly and plays along with the class atmosphere. Not only that, he even sings a song when invited by the teacher, but Eugene senses his abnormality and follows him out of the class. He tries to ask Archie about his identity to find the connection between his body and Ashton's soul, but Archie doesn't remember anything about himself. Far from them, the mysterious people who had been trying to locate Archie and abduct him welcome someone named Dr. God at the airport. One of them reports the boy's memory loss to the doctor, making him think about something. While Archie and Eugene are engaged in a chat outside the school building, Dr. God arrives there claiming to be the first boy's father and beckoning him to go to himself. However, Archie runs away from the place and tells Eugene that he just found the man dangerous, and his first instinct was to run away from him. Soon after that, his body is taken over by Ashton once again. Next day, Ashton fails miserably during the shooting, making Henry delighted. The director frustratedly announces a break, and Archie wakes up in that short break. Immediately after waking up, he's instigated by Henry to give up and takes it as a challenge to give the best performance, earning the director's approval. Ashton, on the other hand, wakes up in his real body and sets out to look for Archie. He finds him unconscious in an alley and drags him back to the room. The boy has started to worry about the future of shooting since Archie refuses to listen to him. After some trial and error, he finally learns that Archie's tattoo is the key to switch bodies and immediately heads out in his body. Jack gets discharged from the hospital and decides to look into Archie, aka Ashton's matter, because Henry tells him that the boy acts like two different people at times. He then goes to Ashton, who is heading somewhere, and hits him on the neck to instigate him to fight. Immediately after, Archie teaches him a great lesson, leaving him bruised. Next day, Archie wakes up with the vision of a restaurant, a small girl, and the doctor who met him outside the school. He leaves to find out some clues about his identity, not listening to Ashton's begging, who tries to stop him for a shooting. On his way out, he encounters Hazel and coldly pushes her away, leaving her stunned. After reaching the restaurant that he dreamed about, Archie remembers visiting the place and leaving a bag in one of its lockers. He goes in to retrieve the bag but gets blocked by Dr. God's people on his way out. Pushing past those people, he meets Ashton on the road, asking him to get in the car that he's brought with him. Behind Archie is Dr. God, asking him to go with him, but Archie chooses to trust Ashton, who brings him to the shooting site despite all his efforts to run away. Once at the site, Eugene tells him to help them with the shooting, and in turn he'll get help from them because he knows that Archie is desperate too. He agrees after some consideration and leaves the bag with Eugene that he retrieved from the locker earlier. However, he refuses to switch bodies with Ashton and acts himself, making the chubby boy realize how he passed the audition test. While he's busy with the shooting, Eugene goes through the boy's bag and finds his identity card. He captures its picture as a safety measure. At night, the boys find Hazel outside their room, but once again, Archie pushes past her to enter the room. Disappointed by his attitude, Hazel chooses to invite Ashton alone for dinner at her place, but Archie soon follows after them, feeling hungry. During dinner, he soon realizes that the chubby guy has feelings for Hazel and asks her if she'd like to go out with his friend. His question leaves everyone stunned as Ashton drags the man out of there, while Hazel angrily leaves for her room. She's unable to comprehend why her boyfriend would ask her about her relationship status. After coming back to the room, Archie encourages the boy to confess his feelings to Hazel, but Ashton tells him that it's his body and Ashton's nature that she had fallen in love with. He then goes on to tell him about the tattoo at the back of his neck that helps them switch bodies, but Archie finds it unbelievable until it finally happens, and Ashton records a message using his body. Archie finally realizes that Ashton isn't involved with erasing his memories, and they both sign a contract to help each other. Jack once again is seen at the hospital after getting his hand broken by Archie last night. Henry and him come to a conclusion that the boy has the dual personality problem and choose to expose him to end his future prospects. For this purpose, they go to place a hidden camera in his room. Henry leaves Jack downstairs with his broken leg and goes to Ashton's room upstairs, surprisingly finding the door open. He hides the camera in the wall beside the bed and leaves quietly. However, the camera's recording shows Dr. God's guard appearing from behind the kitchen wall right after he left. The appearance of another sneaky person after Ashton puzzles them, making them wonder who this other enemy could be. The pair spots the guard leaving the street in a van and tries to follow him, but soon loses track of it. Jack goes back to Ashton's room looking for the other camera that the sneaky man potentially left in the room. He soon finds it and records a message for the people behind it, asking them about their identity. His big claims leave Dr. God puzzled on the other side of the camera, and he wonders who he is. Hazel manages to secure a job at Ashton's shooting site as a dress designer and treats her friends to a meal. During the meal, she finds Archie being back to his gentle self, which is because it's finally Ashton occupying the body. She confronts him angrily for giving mixed signals such as hugging her at one time and refusing to talk to her another time. Ashton gets jealous to hear that Archie hugged Hazel and goes back to his room to wake the boy up and argue with him. But Archie tells him that he doesn't remember hugging the girl and follows him out to the dinner table. Archie not only apologizes to the girl, but also playfully gets ready to propose to her when their friends insist that he proposes to her. However, the scene leaves Ashton extremely nervous, who interrupts the proposal, suggesting Hazel deserves a real proposal. Next day, Ashton texts her to find out about her schedule to propose to her nicely and goes to pick flowers with Archie. The shop attendant regards him strangely upon discovering that it's him who's looking to propose to someone and not the handsome man beside him. Archie advises Ashton to use his original body to confess his feelings for Hazel and encourages him to tell her the truth. However, Ashton looks nervous about it, saying even the shop attendant doesn't regard him worthy of a kind glance. To this, he gets scolded by the handsome guy for always acting like a poor, helpless person, and his submissive behavior being the reason behind people not liking him that much. Dr. God, on the other hand, discovers their big truth with the help of the camera installed in their room, but fails to find the way they managed to do so. At night, Ashton gets stalled by Jack, who's back to bullying him, and calls Archie to help him stop Hazel from leaving the place where he had invited her. Archie doesn't find any other way to stop the girl from leaving, and suddenly goes to her and kisses her on the forehead. The scene is witnessed by Ashton, who arrived there in a hurry to exchange souls with Archie before going for the proposal. He gets heartbroken, and the flower in his hand also falls to the ground. Later, he angrily tries to hit the jerk of a boy for taking advantage of his love, but Archie explains that he had no other choice, otherwise Hazel would have gotten angry at him once again, and it'd make it hard to pacify her. The interaction between the boys suggests that they have slowly become friends, and Archie has started to care about the chubby guy. He intentionally makes Ashton jealous by getting closer to Hazel on the set, and enjoys the naive boy's angry expressions. Dr. God fails to find out the way Ashton and Archie switch bodies and therefore gets both of them kidnapped, forcing them to tell him the secret. He even resorts to torture Ashton, who refuses to open his mouth for Archie's safety, making the boy emotional. Archie starts hitting his head on the ground because he is reminded of the doctor telling someone that his body is extremely important for him. His trick makes Dr. God get his people to untie his hands, causing a fight to ensue. Archie holds a gun at the doctor's team and tells him to let Ashton go, saying he'll tell the secret of the body switch once he lets the boy go. When Dr. God discovers that it's the chip behind Archie's neck that allows the phenomenon to take place, he gets overjoyed, claiming his invention is a big success. This suggests that the doctor used Archie for his research in the past. On the other hand, Ashton's friends trace their location from his phone and come to their rescue in a car, sweeping them away in one swift motion. The group brings them to a gym and asks about their kidnappers and why they're after them. Archie refuses to say anything, making Lucas complain that he doesn't look like the friend he once was. Exasperated, Ashton finally tells them about everything from the start, and Archie also shows them how switching the bodies worked. Their friends decide that it's not safe for them to return to their rented room, and Eugene brings them both to his house. Ashton decides to tell Hazel the truth, while Archie gets busy with finding out the little girl whom he often sees in his dreams, but doesn't remember who she is. He also finds his picture with her outside a bakery. Henry and Jack search Ashton's van, which is used to drive him to the set, and find the front camera recording from the day they were kidnapped. They find the doctor's identity extremely mysterious, and go to Ashton's room to record their message for him, saying they'll hand over the footage to police if he doesn't contact them soon. Dr. God deduces that they're Ashton and Archie's enemies anyway, and can prove to be helpful, so he takes them on board. On the other hand, Ashton finally takes Hazel out using Archie's body and looks for an opportunity to tell her the truth. However, he sees a bakery on the road that resembles what Archie has been looking for, and finds an opportunity to bring Archie out. When Archie gets to see the place, he finally gets his memories back. It's revealed that the little girl was his younger sister, and they were orphans, sometimes coming to the bakery to have their favorite bread. The pair of siblings used to live in an orphanage where they were one day adopted into an American family. The memories of his younger sister bring tears to his eyes as he cries helplessly, unaware of her whereabouts. Hazel gets worried to see him cry, but he doesn't say anything except that he now remembers why he came back from the US. Archie then goes on to look for more clues about his sister, but fails to find anything until he finds Dr. God's man spying on him. Archie captures the man and uses him to enter his private lab to look for any information regarding his sister. While he's busy going through the data, a needle is shot at him, knocking him unconscious. Next, a team of scientists runs a series of tests on his body and discovers some drastic changes that took place due to the soul switch episode with Ashton. The doctors suggest finishing Ashton off to stop his soul from entering Archie's body, or it may cause them a loss of millions of dollars. Archie wakes up to see Dr. God and asks him about his sister, but doesn't get an answer. Dr. God gets a call from his client who requests to meet Archie, and he leaves the lab to go meet the client in person. Outside the lab, William, Ashton, Lucas, and Eugene have been waiting for this chance and sneak right in the moment the doctor's entourage leaves the place. They search around for information, and the system info reveals that Dr. God is an evil scientist who helps his old customers switch bodies with young people. The files contain tons of information about the people who have already gotten the surgery done. However, the boys lose their mind upon seeing Archie's file, whose body is supposed to be switched with a businessman named Mr. Liu. The said businessman finally gets to see an unconscious Archie in person and seems happy at the prospect of looking this handsome in a few days. He instructs Dr. God to hurry to complete the preparations for the surgery, and the man agrees obediently. Back at the lab, the group of young men get into a fight with the doctor's guards and are soon joined by Archie, who was sent back to the lab. The boys manage to escape the place with great difficulty and reach their planning base, the gym. William suggests Ashton and Archie to leave the city and hide somewhere else since their lives are in danger in this place. Ashton brings Archie to his hometown thinking they'll be safe there, but Jack's lackeys see them and immediately report back to their boss. And since the gangster is now on Dr. God's team and got tasked with catching the boy, he too leaves for his hometown. Needless to say, Hazel too follows the young men to inquire about their sudden departure. Since she considers Archie to be Ashton, Hazel reluctantly holds his hand, and Archie intentionally reciprocates the action to make his friend jealous. He finds Ashton's coughs to be quite amusing and intentionally stays behind to let him go ahead with the girl. Standing there, Archie gets a call from Dr. God, who makes him listen to his sister's pleas for help and tells him to go back to the lab if he wishes for her to live. The boy immediately takes a run without informing anyone and rides the bus back to the city. On his way there, he spots Jack's car at a signal and calls Ashton's friends to go to his hometown immediately since he's not safe there. Jack goes to the young man, and for the first time, Ashton uses his original body to deal the gangster a few blows, thanks to William's teachings. However, he soon loses consciousness owing to a sneak attack from Henry. The pair then carries him to a warehouse where Ashton wakes up for a few moments before being put back to sleep. On the other hand, Archie uses his neck tattoo to switch bodies with him to get an update on Ashton. Ashton types his address and important details on the phone before leaving Archie's body. When Archie reads about the warehouse, he immediately detects something wrong and gets down from the bus. He then gets in a car with their friends coming from the city and tells them that Dr. God has something dangerous in mind for the boy. Meanwhile, Dr. God's men start pouring petrol around the place to put it on fire. Eugene is extremely worried about his friend and requests Archie to switch bodies for some time so he can talk to Ashton. Archie silently does as asked, and a horrified Ashton comes out telling his friends that his body might be burned by now. Hearing this, Eugene and his other friends encourage him not to go back to his body. They're afraid to lose their friend, but Ashton receives a call from Dr. God, who threatens him with his sister's life if he tries to escape. Ashton, of course, doesn't wish to let his friend face such a tragic fate and instantly switches back to his body. At the burning warehouse, he thinks about all the good memories he made with his friends, thinking that those are his last moments. However, his friends reach the warehouse in time and jump into the fire to bring him out of the place safely. However, he had inhaled a lot of poisonous gases, and doctors revealed that he slipped into a coma. Hazel brings Grandma to the hospital as well, and the situation turns melancholic when Archie realizes that Ashton had the chance to stay in his body, but he chose not to. He lets the boy come to his body to allow him one last meeting with his grandmother, who's crying sadly. Ashton apologizes to his grandmother for not being a good grandson, but the older lady hugs him, saying she'd wish for him to be her grandson in every lifetime because he's the most precious thing that ever happened to her. After meeting everyone one last time, Ashton tries to leave Archie's body by pressing the tattoo on his neck, but something goes wrong and Archie doesn't come back. The situation creates panic as they don't have enough time, so Ashton goes to Dr. God disguised as Archie. He demands to see his sister, but it's revealed that Dr. God tricked him into going back by using an old video. They capture him before he can run away and prepare to perform the soul-swapping surgery on him and Mr. Liu. Dr. God feels like a real god while performing the procedure. Mr. Liu's soul successfully transmigrates to the young man's body, and he gets really happy to see the outcome. On the other hand, Ashton too wakes up in his original body. Ashton's friends who had accompanied him to the outskirts of the doctor's lab return to his side with a heavy heart, but Ashton finds it hard to believe that Archie is gone just like that. They're also approached by a worried Hazel asking about Ashton since she thinks Archie is Ashton, but they fail to tell her the truth. When police come to record his statement, Ashton boldly names Jack and the actor Henry behind all the fiasco. Mr. Liu transfers all of his assets to Archie's name, and the media covers the news as him being Mr. Liu's lost grandson, who's now his sole heir after the old man's death. Hazel finds it strange and goes to meet him at the shooting site where Mr. Liu behaves strangely and tries to get closer to the girl. Not only that, Ashton too tries to meet him shouting for Archie, but the old man gets his men to take him out of the site. However, Dr. God is stunned to find Ashton alive and wonders how the surgery got completed when he was still alive. Ashton returns to his hospital room and tells his friends about seeing Archie's body with another soul. After some time, Hazel comes there too and tells them about her strange encounter with Ashton. She tells them that he asked her to pass a message to them that Archie is alive. While everyone gets happy to hear that, they fail to come up with words when she asks them who Archie is. Dr. God gets suspicious that Archie might be deceiving him by pretending to be Mr. Liu and asks his men to keep an eye on the young man. Meanwhile, Archie has a breakdown while hiding in a luxurious bathroom. Initially, he only remembered that he had a sister, but the failed soul swap procedure brought all of his memories back. Dr. God had him and his sister adopted using an American couple, but they were brought to his lab for him to do experiments on them. Like them, there were countless kids brought from around the world, and Archie's sister died during one of Dr. God's inhuman experiments. Archie had cried and acted rebellious, but the doctor had him locked into a glass cabin and erased his memories. He then let his body out to live like a free man until the time for his surgery arrived. However, the young boy still had his sister in his unconscious mind, so he returned to his country to look for her, unaware that the poor girl had long been dead. Presently, the return of memories brings Archie agonizing pain as he cries while washing his face and vows to take revenge on the beast who calls himself Dr. God. Jack and Henry get arrested, and police find the CCTV footage showing them in the warehouse bringing Ashton in. Next day, Archie gets in the production house's van to leave for the shoot, but finds Ashton already sitting in the back seat. Ashton excitedly hugs him and asks him to get Dr. God arrested, but Archie tells him that he doesn't have proof against him. Ashton tells him that Mr. Liu mentioned something to him on the surgery table, that he'll get the doctor to bear the consequences using his spy camera if the man deceived him. Hearing this, Archie asks him to send his other friends to the lab to look for some clue, but unfortunately for them, the van had a sound recorder and Dr. God heard every bit of their conversation. So when Archie comes back from the shoot, the doctor gets him captured and tries to inject something in his body. However, his plan gets interrupted with Archie's manager and Hazel's arrival. On the other hand, Ashton's friends go to the laboratory to look for some clues, but Dr. God already had everything cleared. However, they still try to look around, and Lucas spots the pinhole camera in the ceiling that probably Mr. Liu had gotten installed there. On the other hand, Archie drags Hazel to his room and requests her to do something for him. Although confused at his strange behavior, she agrees. We then see Archie trying to escape the palace-like house but gets caught by Dr. God and his man. Being the headstrong person he is, Archie gets into a fistfight with them and beats the life out of the evil scientist as he questions her about his sister's grave. On the other hand, Hazel sneaks into the doctor's home office to take a pen drive and happens to see Archie and Ashton's room's footage where they're talking about switching bodies. However, she's soon captured by the guards. Dr. God manages to capture the young man with the help of his men and once again tries to inject him with the poison, but Lucas arrives there with police, thus managing to save him. Dr. God gets arrested and Archie thanks his friends for all of their help. They all get together happily, but Hazel fails to understand the context of their conversation. Archie and Ashton try to tell her a little about the way Ashton was using his body, but the matter is hard to explain, and Archie suddenly falls unconscious. The examination at the doctor's place reveals that countless surgeries have caused a brain tumor to develop into his brain. The tumor's position also makes it hard to perform a removal surgery. The doctor tells Archie that he only has 3 months to live. On the other hand, Ashton tells Hazel the whole truth about his body switching and how he feared revealing his true identity. Hearing this, Hazel decides to leave him, saying she can't love someone who doesn't love himself and thinks about removing his existence from the world. Next, Archie goes to meet Dr. God in the jail, who complains to him that the government has done him injustice by not making his scientific achievements public. Archie promises to bring his achievements in the public's eye if he tells him about his sister's grave. Hearing this, he delightfully reveals that he had buried all the dead children in Los Angeles. Archie then refuses to talk about his evil doings to the public and calls him a lunatic before angrily leaving the place. He then goes to meet Hazel and asks her if she's leaving Ashton because he's not good-looking enough. However, Hazel tells him that she never liked good-looking people to begin with and only liked Ashton when she found out about his kind nature. Archie asks for her reason to leave then because Ashton is still the same kind-hearted person. To this, she says that it's because he doesn't love himself. Instead of disliking the bullies, he hates himself. Their conversation is overheard by Ashton, whom Archie had called over to make him realize what he was doing wrong in his life. After coming back to their room, Archie tells him about his disease as well, but asks him not to make a fuss about it. He doesn't want anyone to cry over him and goes to visit Ashton's grandma before leaving for the US. Grandma feeds him with a variety of foods and asks him to visit often. She also packs him loads of homemade foods, making the young boy emotional because he may never come back from the place due to the short time he's left with. After coming back to the city, Archie gives Ashton a lot of advices about how to move in the society and love himself before finally leaving him. Ashton starts to make things right by fixing his identity in the school and starts making friends using his original body. A few days later, Jack comes to his school looking for Archie. The court granted him bail on the basis that he only brought Ashton to the warehouse. Seeing him shouting for Archie to come out, Ashton bravely steps out to face him and refuses to move or spill anything about the boy's whereabouts. Jack angrily attacks him, expecting to subdue him with a few punches, but what happens next shocks the entire school. Ashton fights him head-on, showing some heroic moves and forcing the bully to face defeat. Jack finds it unbelievable because to him, Ashton was always a weakling. On the other hand, all the girls in his class find him extremely cute, including Hazel. Jack gets scared and runs away when Ashton's friends arrive there to back him up. Lucas playfully tries to attack him to check his reflexes, and Ashton's strong grip leaves him crying for help, while everyone else laughs it off. The group of friends then leave, happily exuding the lesson that in order to get love, one must first love themselves. A few days later, Ashton asks Hazel out on a date, and this time, she accepts his advances. Finally, we see Archie, who's now in the US and happy with his life. He talks to his friend on the phone while going to visit his sister's grave and expresses his happiness on their achievements. His thoughts reveal that he plans to spend the rest of his days in this country, living close to his sister. With this, the series comes to an end, leaving bittersweet memories behind.